All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for spending your afternoon with us for a little bit. We're very excited. We have two great speakers today, and we're going to go ahead and jump in. So, we want to welcome everyone. This is our monthly E3 parent seminars that we have. They're the third Wednesday of every month, the same time, 3 p.m. And the purpose of the E3 Parent Summit is to engage with our families, to equip them with practical resources that they can use, and then empower them to use the resources to succeed on their journey with independent study here at Blue Ridge Academy. Just some little housekeeping things. So just please note that this session is being recorded for future viewing for all Blue Ridge families. It's going to be posted to the Parent Information Center. So along with all of our previous sessions that we've done. So to make sure it runs smoothly, we just want to make sure that keep your microphones muted throughout the presentation, please, and keep your cameras turned off. You're welcome to submit if you have questions throughout, something comes up, go ahead and put it in the chat on the side, and we will get to those questions at the end. So we'll just kind of start from the top and work our way down. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Alicia Chavez, and I'm one of 3 family liaisons here at Blue Ridge Academy. We also have Anna Aguilar, she's with us today, and then Shannon Eves. And so we specialize in supporting our families. So virtual resources, these workshops, vendor support, and then we also moderate all of our social media for Blue Ridge. So the vendor Facebook page and then our regular Blue Ridge family one. So here is what today's going to look like. Take a moment and just review this. We're going to begin. We're going to hear from Sherry Quinones, who will be sharing about what is happening inside of our children's minds during adolescence, because I know you're all wondering the same thing, like what is going on? And you're not alone. Following Sherry, we will hear from Tiffany Kane, who will share some information on how to help our kids with motivation behaviors, not just when it comes to school, but just like in their life in general. I'm really looking forward to learning right alongside you guys. So let's go ahead and get started with Sherry. Welcome, Sherry. Thank you for taking time today to share with our Blue Ridge families.
Of course. Thank you, Alicia. Okay, all righty. So yeah, I am one of the counselors here at Blue Ridge. I've been counseling for, I guess that would tell my age, but about 20 years, let me say that, and working with young people. So if you, what are the other slides? I just want to make sure. Okay, this is a presentation that I've developed entitled Finger on the Pulse for parents, for you. And it helped me get through things. I started doing the research when my children became young people, and I've been working with them, or adolescents, and I've been working with adolescents. I work high school. I've worked high school, so that's my area. So I always wondered why and who. And then when I became a counselor and took psychology classes, I started doing facilitating this workshop for parents in person. And now, I'm happy to, talk with you. And this is just food for thought. All of it is, there's no recipe, but this is just food for thought. Okay, so we're going to discuss a little bit about the adolescent brain and their impulses, and it's always a work in progress. Thanks. Next slide. Okay, about me. I have 2 children, a daughter and a son. Now they're college grads and adults, and here they are in different phases of their life. I didn't put their baby picture. I thought that might be a little hokey, but as they got older and they were adolescents, which actually the CDC defines as ages 10 through 19 for adolescents. Teens are a whole different thing, teen. Now they're college grads, and I have traveled, and I'm still traveling the journey of parenthood. It never ends, this whole journey. I just sit back and I enjoy the ride. I have learned to do that. Other parents have made it, as you will, and there's no recipe, so we just do our best. The light at the end of the tunnel is that I now receive great gifts on holidays and birthdays. So, that's a good thing. That's coming for you. Next slide, please. Uh, what is finger on the pulse? It's a concept, it's a self-developed professional concept that where parents monitor and conduct temperature checks on our children to determine how they're progressing through life. Being in tune with them during every developmental stage that they have from when they were born, from when they are born, excuse me, to, as long as we can. We must always keep our finger on the pulse. It becomes a little more tricky when they get older from ninth and 12th grade, and then older than that, but ninth and 12th grade, and then through college too, it can be tricky because our children's bodies in high school and middle school, many of our babies, are virtually the same size as we are. So our brain, you know, even though we know that they're young, they're the same size we are. So it's a little tricky in our minds. We have to remember they're not old enough, and there's still the frontal lobe that needs to be developed. Don't let them fool you. They still need you, and they can't always communicate it. Here they are, our children, yours and mine alike, teen years beyond, standing on desk and flipping through the door and, midway through the exam, they're trying to think and looking and balancing. And so, did you ever ask, even with the little ones sometimes, but when they get older and they're in high school, it's like in middle school and high school, pardon me, why did you do that? What made you do that? Well, I'll let you know what what made you do that. Next slide, please. The frontal lobe. Lack of development really is probably what made them do something impulsive. Um, it controls the the frontal lobe controls executive functions, intellect, thinking, planning, problem solving, judgment is really what it is. Um, Long-term memory, they don't really have a problem with that, but they are the last to mature. The frontal lobe, the temporal lobes are the last to mature. The frontal lobe is the home of their planning, organization, judgment, impulse, everything they need for life. And it develops fully when a human is about 25. So I would say my son, his name is Tito. I would say Tito developed his frontal lobe. It's just he's 32 now. See, I'm telling you ages, but sure. No, he's 32, and it's just now kicking in. I can see his adult judgment, and he acts like an adult, and et cetera, et cetera. And then for my daughter, it was about the same age. She's a couple of years older than him. So I don't want to depress you, but they say 25, but look for it to be, a little bit longer, around 30, then everything kind of rounds out, is what I have observed with myself and young people that I work with and my friends' children, etc. Next slide, please. Okay. Um, the frontal lobe contains the motor, this is like, I'm not gonna here are the parts of the frontal lobe. Okay. Many, many, many moving parts. So the summary of this slide is that this is it takes a while for all of this to gel and come together, because the brain is a very, very, very intricate part of our bodies. It's our computer center. So the frontal lobe takes a while because everything has to be coordinated, let's say. And that doesn't happen until they're about 30. But you'll see 25, I'll hope for you. Let's see. Uh, 7 things to know about the teen brain. Just some things to know about the teen brain. There's a lot to know about the teen brain, but in summary, I kind of like this summary for us. It's an important time. Adolescence is an important time for brain development. Its brain development is related to their social experiences during adolescence. Judgment, staying out too late. Oh, I didn't see the time, oh, time got past me. The teen brain is ready to learn and adapt. So, which is why we keep repeating and reinforcing. What can we do as parents? Keep repeating and reinforcing, and it will kick in. Um, Teen brains respond differently to stress. Okay, there may be tantrums involved when they're teens, doors slamming. Um, what I took it seriously when it happened in my home because it did happen. And before I went and addressed it, I gave them time to cool off. And I had to laugh, like, oh, he slammed the door, So you just kind of take it easy on yourself. Watch your stress levels. So um, everything is not a major emergency, even a slamming of a door. That's something that can be talked about. Most teens don't get enough sleep. They're up late. Well, these days they're on their phones, they're texting, et cetera, et cetera. What I did is I put parameters in place for that. I had them put their phones on in a central place so that they could get some sleep. And I didn't do that all of the time, but when I saw that things were getting out of control and they were sleepy and I got calls from the school about certain things, I realized that was a sleep issue. That's what I felt it was. So then I took some control. Another thing I used to do, a strategy I did, Sunday night, if grades slipped or they needed to focus on schoolwork, it's tough to focus on schoolwork when the TV's on. I loved TV when they were in high school. I would watch TV. That was my de-stressor. However, I had to sometimes turn the TV off in the whole house, all TVs, from Sunday night through Thursday night. And then, that it wasn't forever, but it might have been for a month, maybe two, until the grades came up. And then you'll find the focus on them. You can focus on them and they can focus on you. So it was some very helpful time for me. But mental illnesses may begin to appear during adolescence. So just keep it, depression. Um, the highest time for teen suicide is ages 14 through 25, 15 through 25, something like that. I'm sorry, I can't quote it right now, but just kind of, be aware because the emotions are more heightened and their frontal lobe's not developed, so they don't have the judgment to see the consequence. So if they're really feeling bad, pay attention to them. Their bad may not be what oh, that's no big deal, you'll get over it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. So just pay attention to that because it's different for them because their brain's in a different space in life. The teen brain is resilient. It can be trained. Again, repeat, repeat, repeat. Um, Routines help, just as they do in the classroom when teachers are teaching. Routines help in the house. When you come in, take your shoes off, put your books here, do that, go to your room and show me your homework list. So just ideas. Next slide, please. Let's discuss a little bit about sleep. And we already did, but sleep is key. It's key for us. It's key for weight loss. It's key for overall health, just for us as human beings. Next slide, please. Teens sleep like there's something going on with them. They sleep like logs. They tend to. One reason is because they stay up late. Um, get out of bed. You're going to sleep all day. Teens need about 9 to 10 hours of sleep per day, which they usually do not get because they're on their phones or they're up or they're thinking or they're writing or they're reading or they're doing homework, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Keep in mind that, and I'm going to just take a pause. This is something that was pointed out to me by my mother while my children were growing. Yes, it's counselor stuff, but it all kicks in. You get up, you have to do, our students, they have schedules usually. They're working at least 8 hours a day, 7 hours a day, and I mean on the computer. And that's stressful. They have to research, they have to answer questions, they have to do this, and then they have to go to, there's a break sometime, and our kids are enrolled in classes and lessons, so they have to go that. So my point is, Their days are busy and stressful and can be stressful to them as well. So, what stresses them may not stress us because we have been through it. Thoughts. The sleep architecture changes during development, and changes in the brain do influence the sleep wake cycle and promote onset well, they promote delayed onset of sleep. So there's something going on in their brain that makes them not sleep early. So again, routines, turn the TV off or silence the phones at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock if we want them asleep by 10, or 11. It's going to take them a while. How parents can support by keeping your finger on the pulse, even throughout like high school and college. I just got a call from my daughter about her daughter, who's a middle schooler, who said something not so nice or flippant to her teacher. Now, this child has never done that before. Well, lately there's been a pattern. It's getting, seventh grade. She's never really done it before. So we're working on it, but that's the frontal lobe, not predicting what's going to happen when you get home. So uh, keep your finger on the pulse, check in with them often, uh, and you can influence patient's understanding and guidance. Remind them, reminders, repeat of consequences. Um, uh, Give them appropriate doses of independence, freedom, and responsibility. Um, yes, take the car. If it gets that far, take the car, go to the store, and come directly back. That's a dose when a student gets their driver's license. That's a dose. And when they do that, then they can start running errands or running their own errands or taking themselves to lessons. So it's just a graduated process with responsibility. Uh, Teenagers need supportive parents. I'm not even gonna, that's preaching. I'm not gonna do that. Uh, and stimulating activities, an idle mind for a teenager is not a great thing. So I always ask in my meetings, especially since our students learn virtually, they're at home, I ask, what are you doing for the summer? Because the summer is a time you register for summer classes and summer activities starting in January. Some of those great STEM programs, you register in January. So you have to start thinking jobs, summer jobs, January, February. That's when they're out there. And that's just information for if you have little children, that's just something to keep in mind and to keep them busy. Okay. Capitalize on their uh, strengths. If they can swim, make them a lifeguard. If you have any questions, ask me. I'll find something for your child. Teenagers need guidance, and when they will become adults, it does get better. Sometimes they become better adults than parents are, and I can actually say that about my children. I think they're much better adults than I am. Next slide, please. Be patient. You were once your child too, which is a little scary. The difference I would say with that is that in today's world, the consequences for some of their actions can be irreversible. And I don't think I had that as much growing up. Like when we grew up, they weren't as devastating to some of the consequences. But be patient. Uh, Know that you will want your child to keep your finger on the pulse. One way to do it, and this is a tool I share with you, and I hope you use it. And if you use it right now, great. When you have a teen, they don't always communicate. Some parents have kids that can communicate, and they communicate with them, and they're wonderful, and they're there. But even the children that you feel are communicating, what was good about your day? And then you listen. Mom, what was not so great about your day? And then you listen Because that's really that one is my favorite. What's so not so great? And the child or your teen or your student or will communicate, oh, I didn't like this or whatever. So now you've got more insight into their lives and their days because they do have lives and they do have days and they do have experiences and feelings, and you want their judgment. You would like to guide them with the judgment in different scenarios. So they'll be safe. All right, next slide, please. There's a list of resources here, impulse control activities for teens, 5 ways to help your teen control their impulses. Counting is a great one. Um, and there's also some information, I think Anna, I'm going to give it to you, to put in here for the University of Chicago's consortium on freshmen. They did a lot of research on freshmen and freshman connection to school. And that algebra. Don't be afraid of algebra. I taught it for years and everyone seems to get through it. So yeah, it'll happen. So yeah, keep your finger on the pulse. What's good about your day? What's bad about your day? Here's some Blue Ridge resources for you. I'm not going to read them all to you, but got to take that 2023 out of there. Sorry, guys. But yeah, here we are. And thank you very much for, I think that's the last slide. Okay.
Yes.
You keep your finger. I'm like, oh, yeah, we're almost there. Okay. Keep your fingers on the phone.
Yes.
And that's part of the trick. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sherry. I know we got a comment in the chat that you might have missed some of it. And I know that that was a lot of information, a lot of good information. So if you're worried, don't be. We are recording it. It'll be available afterwards along with the slides. So if there's any links that you want to click on in the resource pages, those will be there for you as well. Okay. Okay, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep it rolling, and we are going to be welcoming Tiffany Kane. So Tiffany, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, inviting me to do this. As I was getting ready to do these slides, I realized I haven't talked about this stuff in a really long time, and it's fun for me to think about, and I'm excited to share some information with everybody today. Just a little bit about me. So, and Sherry didn't want to reveal her age, but I'm okay with telling you that in 1985, I started with a summer job at the YMCA. And what didn't make the slide because there wasn't enough room, but I've actually been a teacher since I was 3. I would have class in my bedroom with my stuffed animals on the bed. I'd never even been to school, and I was teaching them school. So I feel like I was just born to do this, and I've been doing it ever since I can remember. But I officially started working in 1985 at the YMCA, and I've been working with kids ever since. I was a preschool director. I've been a classroom teacher for grades 3 through 8. I've been a high school administrator. I've worked at the university as a teaching assistant and a lecturer. My professor went out on maternity leave, and I took over for the summer for a class. I've been a homeschool mom myself. My child is currently a 11th grader, but we homeschooled from 3rd grade to 8th grade. This is my 6th year here as an HST, if I can count correctly. I've got a master's degree in education administration and an EDD in educational psychology. So when it comes to motivation and learning, and when it comes to just this whole education thing, I feel like I have a unique perspective because I've seen the system from all different angles, right? I was a student in the system. I've been a teacher in the system. I've been a parent who homeschooled, and I've worked at virtually with every age. And so my interest has always been about what makes people tick, right? So that's why when I was thinking about getting a doctoral degree, that's why I went for the educational psychology, because that's the thing. I feel like that's the through thread through all of it. And that's the thing that gets me really excited. So let's go on. If we can go to the next slide, please, Anna. Is she there? Where'd she go? Okay, so one thing I have learned just from doing this for so many years, that if somebody comes to me and they're having a hard time doing something, they can't get something done, whatever it is it an assignment? Is it part of their job? Is it the first question I ask myself, I put my educational psychologist hat on and I say, okay, is this problem this person is having, is it a matter of skill or is it a matter of will? If it's a matter of skill, well, then we're in luck because that's easy. Skills are teachable, and we can teach, people can learn skills all day long, right? And you got to remember, if it's a skill issue, there's really only one of three things that's missing. They don't have the information, they don't have the tools, or they don't have time either to learn the task or to complete the task. So if that's the issue, like I say, we're in luck because we can diagnose that really quick. And we can figure out either you can do it or you can't. So we know we know we can diagnose a skill really easily, right? When it comes to will, there's so many more factors that are involved because now we're talking about a person's motivation and what makes them tick. And it can be a little bit more complicated to address, a little bit more nuanced to address. And we're going to talk about what are some of the things to think about when it's a matter of a person's motivation, which in your case, you're talking about your kids. So what is your kid's motivational issue? Okay, so that's what I'm going to talk about today. And I have a lot of information and I get really excited and I talk really fast when I'm excited. So if I say anything and you're like, what did she just say? And we need to add this to the end of the slides. Alicia, I'm happy to put my email address. People can email me anytime and I will be happy to answer your question. Okay, so skill or will? Skill, easy, right? Perfect. This is perfect timing. So information, tools, and time. If somebody is missing the information, let's take, for example, anybody who's here on the Zoom call today, right? You're all here, so you have all three of these things. You have the information, you knew what Zoom was, you could find the link, you know how to turn on your camera and turn on your microphone, right? That could also go into the tools category, but knowing how to do those things, all of us have turned our cameras on and off. All of us have muted ourselves and unmuted ourselves. Every single person that's here today, I've seen the little lights going on and off, right? So that's all about having the information that you need to do that thing, whatever that task is. The tools that might be missing, if you didn't have a computer, or if you had a computer that didn't have a camera, or somebody had to drop off because their Wi-Fi was giving them a hard time, right? That's going to get in the way of you performing the task of being on this Zoom call. Or if whatever equipment you have doesn't have a battery. So that would fall into the category of you don't have the correct tools to get the job done. And then time is really about either you haven't spent enough time getting familiar with the tools, you have a slow internet connection, or you simply haven't had time to do the thing that it's required to do. Now, Zoom doesn't take a lot of time to find the thing and click it. But for other skills, there might be, let me think of a skill. Well, I'm a crocheter, right? So that's something I do in my free time, and I haven't had as much time to do that thing as I want. So I have many, many projects that have been started, works in progress, right? So I haven't had the time to do what I want to do with that skill. Okay, next slide. Now, let's talk about what we mean when we're talking about motivation, because like I said, this is the part that goes really big and really wide and really deep, okay? So motivation has the same root word, the same Latin root word, movere, which means to move, as some of these other English words I have on here. So motor, you get that means just to, a motor moves on its own. Promote, going up. Remote, going from far away. Automotive, like doing it automatically. Demote, going down. And believe it or not, emotion, right? I think motion, a lot of people don't realize that has the same root as well. So I think of emotions as like energy and motion going through my body and sometimes influencing the way I think about things, right? So when we're talking about a person's motivation, what we're actually talking about is what is that thing that makes them move or makes them want to do the thing that we are hoping that they're going to want to do, right? It doesn't always have anything to do with us. It always has something to do with them. Okay, next slide. So the biggest thing when you're talking about in external or internal types of motivation. So if a person, we're going to talk in a little bit about the different theories of motivation, but for right now, just keep in mind that there are two ways that a person can be motivated to do something. Sometimes if they're striving to reach an external goal, right? You want to get that job. You want to go to college. There's a goal. There's something that's happening outside of yourself. That's going to be more of an external motivation. You want to be faster than somebody else. You want to get good grades or better grades than other people in the class. But grades are something that happens outside of you, right? You want to get a sticker on a behavior chart that for little kids, right? A lot of times. Sometimes they're avoiding things too. I didn't add this to the slide, but they're avoiding the timeout or the chair or the punishment or whatever it is. That's still an external thing. If you're wanting to save money to buy something special, or you go to work, you do work because you're going to get paid, right? Some of us are lucky enough to do work because we love it. So that would be more of an internal thing. But most people are going to work and doing work because they can get paid. That's something that they're going to receive from the outside of themselves. Now, if it's an internal motivation, that's an inside job, right? That's something that's happening within the person who is doing the moving. So either they really enjoy learning something new. I often say my favorite place to be is on the learning curve. I like to live on the steepest part of the learning curve. So for me, learning something new, that's just really fun. The act of learning for me is really fun. Some people, not so much. Maybe you want to attain a personal best, right? I always think of golfers when I think about that. They're wanting to attain something. They want to beat their own best score, right? Or maybe it's about asserting autonomy and control over themselves. Maybe they don't want to do it because you want them to do it. They want to do it because it's important for them, right? Or the other big thing that would be an internal motivating factor is something that contributes to feeling good about one's self-identity, self-esteem. I know I'm going to feel really good about myself when I figure out how to do X, Y, Z, right? So those are all the things when you're thinking about motivation, there's kind of two places where it's going to come from. And it's where is the reward going to come from for that motivation for the person that we're talking about? I hope that made sense. I feel like I'm talking a little bit in circles, but I think I'm making sense. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So when we talk about different theories of motivation, there are kind of two big branches of the tree, if you will. One branch of the tree is the behavioral motivation theories. And that's what I talked about earlier. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the behavioral theories today because you cannot open a parenting magazine without learning about a behavior chart or how to reward your child for doing things that approximate what you want them to do. That's what all the behavioral theories are about, right? That's about affecting the actual behavior of the person by reward or punishment, okay? The thing to know about behavioral theories is that they work really well for short-term goals, right? So if you want to get your child to do something, some people think of it as manipulation. I don't. I think when it comes to your child, you love them, you want what's best for them. So, but when you want something to get done in the short term, that's when the behavioral theories really kick in, right? The cognitive ones, that's where we're working more on the internal factors that influence a person's behavior. And they're more influencing the cognitive factors or the internal factors are going to have a better effect for long-term goals. Does that make sense? It's so funny. I like talking to people. There's nobody to answer me. So anyway, so that's the big difference. If you're talking about the branches of motivational research, there's a behavioral branch and then there's a cognitive branch. There are other branches as well, but these are the two main ones that we're going to talk about today. All right, so let's move on to the next one. And here's the thing to remember. So often in our society, we think in a very binary way. It's this or it's that. And one has to be better than the other. And that's absolutely not the truth. Okay. They both are powerful and they both have their place, and understanding how they work is really important. But like I said before, if you've seen any kind of parenting magazine ever, you already know how the behavioral theories work, because that's about, like I said, that's about rewards and punishments and those kinds of things. So we're going to spend a lot more time today on the cognitive theories just because I think they're more interesting. Not necessarily better, but it's more interesting for me to talk about. Okay, so next slide. I'm going to talk about it a little bit though. So behavioral theories of motivation are based on, there's two things to know about. There's the information processing theory, and that is kind of a model of our brain. Let me say this, I'm going to say this backwards. I think computers were based on this model of the human brain, right? So we have inputs, something happens, and we have outputs. And so that's what the information processing theory is all about. It's about how do we take the information in, what do we do with it, how do we store it, and then how do we access it to bring it back out. I could probably do an entire presentation just on the information processing theory, and I think it's I think that's fascinating too. And then behaviorism is the other one that is really based in, obviously, behavioral theories of motivation. But again, we're not going to spend as much time on that today. Let's move on to the next slide. So when it comes to cognitive theories of motivation, there are 4 that I like to talk about. There are more theories than this. And you have to remember that when something is a theory, it means it can't be proven, right? But here are some ideas about how we think things work. So we're going to talk about these 4 today. We're going to talk about a value orientation. We're going to talk about goal orientation, self-efficacy, and attributions. So, and what I want you to, I'm going to ask you at the end of this presentation to reflect on what you have learned from what I'm about to share with you about the way you learn best. And then how will that influence how you work with your child moving forward? So really pay attention more about which of these things apply to you, and then you can work with your child with it later. But for right now, I want you to be really self-centered because, you know, as parents, we're always thinking about everybody else all the time. So today, you just think about you. All right, let's move to the next slide. Okay, so value orientation. Value orientation theory is telling us about if you have a value orientation theory, if you have a value orientation, I gotta slow down, I'm getting too excited. If you have a value orientation for some task that you are trying to perform, that means if you have an intrinsic interest in it, it's because you have some personal enjoyment in that thing. So I'm going to talk about crochet, right? I mentioned that earlier already. I love to crochet. Learning to crochet was very challenging, but now that I know how to crochet, it's a huge source of personal enjoyment for me. But it also fit the extrinsic goal value for me because I like to create things that I can then use later for myself. Okay, so I knew that if I could learn how to crochet, I could make items that I would use. I'm currently working on a new backpack for myself, right? Because I like to have both hands free when I'm walking around the store. And so I'm actually working on something that is a useful thing. So this task has some meaning for me because I have intrinsic value orientation for it because I get personal enjoyment out of it. I have extrinsic value for it because it does serve a future goal. There's something I can create with it that I can use later. And once I'm finished, I always feel really good about myself when that task is complete. So there are different tasks that you can have just an intrinsic value orientation for a task, just an extrinsic, or just an attainment value, or you can have all 3 like I just talked about with crochet. So what I'd like you to do before we move on to the next one, because again, I feel like I'm talking really fast. I'm going to take a sip of water. I'd like you to think about a task that you do often that brings you personal enjoyment. And then think of another task, or maybe it's the same task, I don't know, that you do because you know you're going to have some value for it in the future. Or maybe there's some things you do just because you feel good about yourself. So be thinking about those 3. I'm going to take a sip of water before we go on to the next slide. Okay, thank you, Anna, for giving me that break. We can go on to the next one. All right, goal orientation. So again, we're looking at intrinsic and extrinsic. A mastery goal orientation, you're focused on your effort. So I feel really good about the effort I have put into something. right? It's not about necessarily, this sounds weird because it's goal orientation and I'm talking about, it's not about if I got a high score. It's not about if I won the game. I just feel good about the effort that I put forth for the project. Okay. So I have, again, I'm going to talk about crochet a lot just because it's top of mind for me today. I have many, many, many crochet projects that they're terrible. They're not useful. They're actually kind of ugly because I didn't understand stuff about color theory or something like that. But there's something in every mistake where I can look and go, you know what? I learned a ton from making those mistakes. And that's something that I've had to cultivate over time. Some people aren't wired that way, right? But when you can focus on the effort, I feel really good about the effort that I put forth to make that thing, even though it's really ugly, because look, I learned how to do this stitch, or I learned how to do that stitch, right? Or you can have a performance goal orientation. And this is for people who, you know what, they are really focused on what other people think of them, or how well they're going to do, or how it's going to look. Again, not bad, right? A lot of times performance, I see a lot of social media posts where, you know, people are uh, downplaying the importance of having a performance goal orientation. But, you know, I had to get ready for this presentation, right? I couldn't just come and just chat with you. Well, I probably could have, but that wouldn't have been as good of a presentation as if but I was thinking about, okay, what do I want to say? What do I want to share? What's important? So for this, putting this presentation together, I had a very performance goal orientation. Does that make sense? I'm hoping that's making sense. All right, let's move on to the next one. Self-efficacy. This is the one that I think is so important and so fascinating. Self-efficacy really talks about how well you think you will perform a specific task. So if you think, let me think of I should have had an example prepared. I apologize that I don't. Well, we'll just talk about students, right? We're taking a test. If a student is prepared for a test and they have studied and they have done all of those things that they need to do to get ready, there's still this piece of self-efficacy where they might think, I'm not good at taking tests. So even though they're prepared and they know all of the information, if they have this self-talk or they don't think they're going to do well, that could get in the way of them doing well, right? The opposite can also be true, where someone thinks, that test is going to be easy. I studied, I know everything. I don't need to study anymore. I don't need to prepare anymore. When in fact, they haven't done the work they needed to do, right? But because they were so self-efficacious, or they thought so highly of their skill or what they were able to do, they didn't prepare, and then that's going to get in the way of them doing well on the test. So what's most important with self-efficacy is that what you think about how well you will do actually matches how well you are capable of doing. Does that make sense? So I've said that a lot today. Self-efficacy, or how you feel about how you are going to perform a task, comes from 4 different places. So it comes from mastery experiences. That means someone who takes tests often and continues to do well, they know they're going to do well in the future, or they know what they have to do to prepare. So having mastery experiences, getting practice, and knowing what to expect is really important. Vicarious experiences, I think, are kind of my favorite ones, because there was a time, like I said, my child is now 17 and doesn't do this as much anymore, but there was a time when they would watch YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video of other kids playing video games. I would scratch my head, and I know a lot of parents are like, why are you watching other kids play? Because they are learning through vicariously by watching someone else do it, right? That's where as a parent, that's where your modeling comes in. So if they watch you do something well, you might not even think they're paying attention, but they are. Okay. So vicarious experiences are another thing that highly influence a person's self-efficacy or how well they think they can do something. Social persuasion. That is, we were talking before this call, and one of the parents was sharing about, you know, they have one child that just really needs it. You know what? You got this. I got you. You know what to do. Social persuasion is when other people are telling them that they are good at something. When they get praise for something, that is going to affect their self-efficacy. And then there's also the physiological or emotional state. I know when I'm tired, when I'm way too tired, when I'm hangry. We all know what that's like, right? I am not going to perform as well as if I've taken care of myself, if I've had enough sleep, like Sherry was talking about, or I've eaten something good for myself. If I eat something full of sugar, I might trick myself into thinking I'm ready, but probably I'm not going to be ready. So, so that's what self-efficacy is, and I think it's one of the most fascinating of the theories that we're going to be talking about. Okay, next slide. And then the last one, this one is also fascinating, and I think I'm making this up. I will gladly say I am making this up, but I think that attribution theory is tied to self-efficacy. Attribution theory really is about explaining the reasons why you succeeded or you failed. If you think you succeeded because you put effort in, or you succeeded because of something that was within your own control, you are more likely to do well in the future, right? If you think you succeeded because you were lucky, or you succeeded because you were just born that way, right? That's what these things are talking about. So where is that locus of control? What is the reason for the success or failure? Is it something within you, or is it something outside of you? You know, we're talking a lot about intrinsic and extrinsic, but it really does make a big difference. And that's why at the beginning I said motivation is so hard to, there's so many factors and they all work together, right? But the locus of control is if I can do something to change it, then I am more powerful and I can be more successful in the future, right? If I failed at something, I can make a change. There's something I can do. If I failed at something because the teacher was mean, or because the teacher was bad, or because the teacher didn't do something, well then that's not my fault. So where's the motivation to make any change at all? None, right? Okay. Temporal stability means, is it something that's because of the timing of it, right? Let me think of a good example for this one. Is it something that's going to change over time? I guess is the better one with temporal stability. Or let me think. I know I have a good example. I'm going to come back to that one. Controllability, again, goes with locus of control. Is it something inside of me or outside of me? Is it something that I can do? Is it changing or unchanging? So here's one that's important to think about for this. If someone grows up and they're told all the time that they're so smart, and you got that from your dad or you got that from your mom, that's not within their control, right? So that's less likely to help them in the future. I think the biggest thing with this attribution theory, and I'm looking at the time, the biggest thing with attribution theory is for students to really understand that they have a role in their success and in their failure. So I'm not going to go through every single one. You can email me and ask me questions as I'm talking long. All right, let's go to the next slide. So the important thing as parents and teachers and everybody when working with a young person, or even if you are an adult and you're supervising someone, right? The most important thing you can do is give effective feedback to people. And that feedback, when you're thinking about all the theories I just talked about, right? It has to have a direct direct effect on their behavior as a form of reinforcement, meaning you need to be able to tell them something that they can do that's going to make them be able, something concrete that they can do that's going to make them better. Make sure they have all the information they need to be able to improve. Remember, information, tools, and time. It might be somebody's not doing well because they don't even know what they don't know. right? You want to affirm their feeling of self-confidence. You want to affirm their self-determination. And the last thing is, and I don't know why I didn't put this on the slide, is when a child does well on something, it's very important that I know I said that performance wasn't, there was no, like, one wasn't better than the other, but anything that you can do to affirm their effort or compliment their effort or make them take pride in the effort, like it's their doing, it's their responsibility, the more effect you're going to have on their motivation moving forward. Does that make sense? Again, I keep asking you that question and nobody's talking to me. All right, let's go to the next slide. So we're at that point now where I said I wanted you to ask yourself these questions. So how will understanding the cognitive theories of motivation how do they influence your own learning? And how is it going to help you working with your child moving forward? And I'm realizing now, Alicia, that I didn't put, I thought I had somewhere in these slides my email address, but I did not add it. We will have to add that later. But that's it for me. I don't know if anybody has any questions or if they want to talk about it, or I'll give it back to you, Alicia. Again, I'm sorry I talk fast when I get excited, and that was a lot. So hopefully it was helpful.
Thank you, Tiffany. No, it was very helpful. And don't worry about your email because we will go ahead and add it to the slide deck after the recording. So it will for sure be in there. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Anna. She's going to facilitate our Q&A.
Yeah, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, you were hitting such great points though. There were so many things where I'm like, okay. And I appreciate Tiffany that you gave us as parents a minute to reflect on us, because you are so right. How we cognitively think and how we work, we pass that on to our kids. So as you were saying though, I'm like, oh no, I did that with my kids. I did. And it's because of who I was and how I learned and how I grow. So just really reflective. Thank you so much for helping me understand that. And some of the things I'm like, okay, I think I'm doing good then. I think I did all right. I didn't mess it up too much. But
you're not going to break your kids, Anna.
Oh, that's exactly.
You're not going to break them. They're going to be okay. They're resilient, and you know what? They can learn new things too. So.
Absolutely. At this time, we are opening it up for any question and answers. I know that also both Tiffany and Sherry are just really great communicators. And if there's anything that you would like to ask or reflect on or share with all of us, you are welcome to do so. Please feel free to unmic. You can or unmute yourself. You can open your camera up. What I really love about the staff here at Blue Ridge is they're so personable and so just relatable. So I'm sure that even your feedback as you share it with us and ask questions will only, help us and make our communication stronger. And so again, if there's anything you'd like to share, we're going to give a few minutes for that. Again, you're welcome to unmute your microphones. You're welcome to turn on your camera so we can see you if you feel comfortable. But again, we'll give a few minutes for that.
I have a question. Probably for Tiffany. I have my oldest, who is very type A, like wants to do everything so perfect and just cross all her T's, dot all her I's. But to the point that it's like kind of restrictive when she's doing her work because she gets so frustrated. Like if one little thing is off, she'll like crumble the paper, toss it in the trash. And I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? Like we can just erase that. And it's like the whole world's in. I guess because like she doesn't need help so much with like the motivation. It's just when things go off track for her, she just spirals.
How old is she?
She's 7.
Oh, so that's young. She's starting
she's
young
little.
already. Again, I would limit your praise on how well things are done and focus more on the effort that she's putting into things, right? because I was thinking you were going to say high school, because I'm finding a lot
Oh,
with
no,
my
no.
with my high school students, right? Like they want to do it perfectly, and then it ends up that they don't get anything done because they're spending like, and that's a big thing in high school, right? Like
Mhm.
perfect is the enemy of done. Have you heard that? Right? Sometimes, unless she's really enjoying it, then I would say um, focus more on her effort and less on the results, and just see if that helps. That's what I would try.
We'll do that.
Does that sound right?
Thank you. Yeah, no, that
Okay.
does. Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
good.
I have to make a comment in regards to like kind of keeping your finger on the pulse. I've heard Sherry give this seminar a while back ago, and I did reflect on it for a while. And I think it did change something within me, even with my daughter. When I would pick her up from school, she had a very long day. And so I would pick her up, and I kind of stopped asking, so how was your day? How did it go? Oh my gosh, what'd you do? And that kind of prodding would just like really give her pause, like, whoa, you're overwhelming me. I'm in my car. It's my safe space. um, so I kind of toned it down, and I spent her senior year asking her when she would come in, like, hey, what was your score today? Was it a 1, like it was really bad, or was it a 10? Like, what kind of a day did you have? 1 to 10. And that happened to work out better for her because she was able to say, oh, that was an 8. And believe me, an 8 was like, yay. I mean, that was a good day for her. And then there were times where she's like, it was a 5. And I'm like, okay, it just helped me have a better finger on the pulse instead of asking for details or for anything. Because at this point, she was just exhausted from just, socialization and everything she was learning and kind of keeping that in there. She could give it a number, and that was a lot easier. And so that was something that I took from the past and I felt was very valuable for her. My boy and girl are 2 very different ones, but I just had to say that. I think instead of asking for words, the numbers were good. And then that gave her a place and a space to say, it was an 8 because of, or it was a 5. And then we just kept it quiet. And eventually she was like, I didn't turn in an assignment and it was really big. And I just, I'm so mad at myself for not doing it, whatnot. But it would just lead her to be able to have that discussion and break that down for herself and then for us. So it was really helpful, Sherry, when you're talking about just really being there for the kids and just next to them. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I love the way you took that, you, the what is good about your day and what was not so great about your day, and quantified it. Yeah, I like that. I like that because some people process better like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gave your daughter a chance to reflect on why it was an 8. Why was an 8? Well, this happened. Well, that happened. And I think it was excellent of you to recognize that it was too much for her, the initial approach. That was really a great, in my opinion, finger on the pulse. You adjusted, instead of getting frustrated and going, why can't you just answer me? Then it turns into a big, thing, So yeah, I commend you, Anna. That was a great adaptation. And for your situation and your child, and knowing your child and keeping the finger on the pulse. Great. And thank you.
Yeah, I like that scale thing. That was good. Perfect. Perfect.
Well, if we don't have any more questions, that is okay, because our counselors and our teacher are very much available. You can find them on our website. A lot of times you take the first name dot last name at theblueridgeacademy.com and you'll reach any of us. So you're welcome to do so. The last thing I wanted to share before we leave it, I just really want to thank you for joining us and let you know that the recording and the slides will be made available in the coming days on our E3 document using the QR code. Actually, not the QR code for this one, but and then we also have a survey. So as we end all of our presentations. We would just like to know, how do we continue to keep the finger on the pulse with our parents? How can we support you? How was this presentation effective for you? Was it helpful? Are there other things that we can do as family liaisons to support you as parents? What are some topics that you maybe are interested in, or things that you may be struggling with that we can come alongside you? We are a village, I always say, and we can do this together. Homeschooling is just so immense, but it's also so valuable to meet up with other parents and find other teachers and just find other places to be of resource. So please fill out that virtual events survey. Let us know how we did, how we can improve, anything that we can support you with. Last but not least, we are really excited. Next month on March 19th, we have an author coming to visit us. Her book was called Childhood Unplugged. It is a really great book, and our theme and our topic for next month is parenting in a digital age. How do we do this? We can't run away from it. It's coming like a tidal wave. I think we were already feeling those effects. But we're just going to be given some resources on how to both parent well and have that balance of inviting the digital age with us, with our students, and how that's going to impact. She is also a supporter of another book that was written called The Anxious Generation, which it has just been getting rave reviews. And so she's also going to be touching on that book. We're really excited to have her. Just bar none, she has spoken in lots of different TV shows and other different events. And so we're just really happy that we get her all to ourselves. This is a Blue Ridge exclusive, so we're really privileged to have that. We want to invite you, we want to invite any of our families to come and listen to her and just really be able to interact with her as well. So thank you all so much. We hope that this was beneficial. Thank you so much to Sherry Quinones and Tiffany Kane for just sharing your valuable information, and just your little insights are so helpful as we continue to just encourage our kids and help them in their journey with the Blue Ridge Academy. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you next month. Take care.